My brain has just been fried in preparing for this. I've been waking up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I got to do more theistic arguments. But it's all right.
There's so many. All right, here we go. The argument from bananas. Nice.
Yeah, all right. So that's our first design arguments. Consider a banana. Okay, just kidding. We have Aquinas' fifth way. So that one might be lost on some people too. Okay, Aquinas' fifth way. Whatever has ends or goals is either intelligent or is directed by intelligence. Efficient causes in nature have ends or goals and work together towards the goal of harmony and order. 3, efficient causes in nature are not intelligent. So, efficient causes in nature are directed by intelligence. Cameron, I had notes, brief notes, along with all of these arguments that would sketch what the main justification is for the key premise. But I'm thinking, unless you request it at this point, I guess we should just move on. What do you think?
Let's move on. And if you can send me those notes, I don't know if you've got them in a format that I can share with people, but that might be a solution. Is I could share that along with the slides for people.
Yeah, yeah. It bothers me that outlining an argument, one premise of an argument would just be like, oh, why would you ever think that's true? It's like, well, I have the justification here. I want to share it real quick, but
yeah,
we should have probably just separated out. Okay, let's have an episode on just cosmological arguments, just ontological arguments, things like that.
Well, this is just the beginning. We can do a lot of different things with this.
Okay, so Etienne Gilson, that's the quote there illustrating justification for the main premise of Aquinas' argument there. And we have a simplified version, which is just that, next slide, intelligence underlies teleology. There is irreducible teleology immanent to the natural world and in all throughout the natural world, so intelligence underlies the natural world. Okay. Design in biology. Let's begin with the origin of organic life. I don't know about you, Cameron, but when I was in high school, they were still teaching the Miller experiment. Did they teach that to you in high school?
I don't remember actually. What is that experiment?
The Miller experiment, let's see if I can remember it, is an experiment. The main guy was named Miller, but he had some solution that they thought resembled like the prebiotic soup of Earth's early atmosphere.
I don't think I have no clue if I was taught it, but I remember hearing about it.
And so what he did is just basically shoot like bolts of electricity into this prebiotic suit, and he was able to synthesize amino acids. And this was touted as being this groundbreaking experiment that is a clue to how life originated, which has since just been completely abandoned. Like no one defends the Miller experiment anymore. But I asked around, and apparently it is still taught in high schools. I can't believe that. I couldn't believe that it's still taught in high schools. Anyway, we have an argument in biology from organic life. Given what we know, complex organic life in the universe could not have originated naturalistically. If given what we know, complex organic life could not have originated naturalistically, it's reasonable to believe that it originated supernaturalistically. So it's reasonable to believe that complex organic life originated supernaturalistically. And so we have some resources here. There's a classic book, Thaxton, Bradley, and Olson's The Mystery of Life's Origin, which is dated, and Meyer's Signature in a Cell, in some respects, is an intended update of Mystery of Life's Origin. And so there you go. All right, we have Hugh Chandler's divine intervention argument. Now, for this, you need to sort of begin by imagining Earth before there was life. Now you can run the argument. So just imagine Earth, no life, and now let's think. Given that God intervenes to produce life on Earth, there is no chance at all that there will be no life on Earth. The probability of the conjunct God intervenes to produce life on Earth and life does not occur is 0. Okay, that seems true. 2, if God does not intervene to produce life on Earth, the probability that life will occur here is very low. 3, it is just as reasonable to bet that God will intervene to produce life on Earth as that he won't. the subjective probability here is around 50-50. Let's just take that for argument. Pretty conservative assumption there. But there will be life on Earth. We know that because there is life on Earth. So it's very likely that God will intervene to produce life on Earth. It's a probability argument for God's producing life on Earth.
Yeah,
interesting argument. And you can find this defended in Faith and Philosophy.
Nice.
It's interesting because it's a purely philosophical argument for the origin of life, for the theistic origin of life. It doesn't depend on any empirical science. Okay, so design and biology. We have organic structures. Well, here, let me just bust some myths about Hume and Paley. I was taught almost all introduction to philosophy texts. They treat the design argument before Hume, and then they present Hume as just demolishing Paley's design argument. But in fact, Hume wrote after Paley, not before. Well, that's how they present. Hume wrote after Paley, not before. But in fact, Paley wrote before Hume. After Hume, in cognizance of what Hume had written. So he developed his design argument, having already read Hume's criticisms. So this idea that Hume read Paley and refuted Paley, which is how it's always presented, is just totally mistaken. So there's this sort of vulgar version of Paley's design argument, which is culled from the opening chapters of his book on natural theology, which they present it as an analogical argument. It'll go like this: some things in nature resemble human artifacts. 2, human artifacts are the product of intentional design. 3, so we should infer that things in nature that resemble human artifacts are also products of intentional design. If there are things in nature that are the products of intentional design, God exists, so God exists. And as an analogical arguments in general are pretty weak, so it's not difficult to poke a lot of holes in this, as Hume, or at least as you can gather that Hume does. But what more careful scholars on Paley's design argument have pointed out is that a more faithful version of Paley's argument isn't really analogical, it's deductive. And it would go like this: if X is design-like, then X can only be the product of intentional design. Some things in nature are design-like, so those things are products of intentional design. And a contemporary version, a defense of Paley, would be Michael Behe style arguments from irreducibly complex organisms.
All right, let's just keep chugging along. We're on to Pruss's analogical design argument.
Okay, so Pruss has this argument: DNA is like an intentionally designed computer program. Intentionally designed computer programs have intelligent designers. So if DNA is like an intentionally designed computer program, it too probably has an intelligent designer. So DNA probably has an intelligent designer. And he's got a lot of interesting arguments in defense of this argument. Design and biology, and here we have information. Information here just means specified complexity, a complex arrangement or a pattern that has function or that has meaning. Okay, and the argument would go: information is inherent to the building blocks of life. So it's not like Pruss said that there's something like information. No, this argument says, no, there is information inherent to the building blocks of life. Information is the product of intelligence. If information is inherent to the building blocks of life, then the building blocks of life themselves are the byproduct of intelligence. So the building blocks of life are the byproduct of intelligence. And building blocks would be things like genes expressions, proteins, DNA, and so forth. And, this is a pretty widely held belief. Bill Gates actually is often quoted as saying DNA is like a software program, only it's one that's infinitely more complex than even the most complex software programs that we have. So it's pretty much taken for granted that DNA might not just be like information, it is information.
This is actually a lot of fun because I'm more interested in cosmological arguments and even ontological arguments. So it's fun to see some of these from biology, as the way that they've been developed for God's existence. It's interesting to me. I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying this.
Yeah. Yeah. I have some other notes here, but we'll skip those. Let's go to Tennant's argument
Okay.
from cosmic teleology. And Tennant, F.R. Tennant, he was the Richard Swinburne of the early 20th century. His work is just incredible. And he, in many ways, his arguments foreshadow or anticipate almost all of Swinburne's arguments. So we have one: the universe is conspicuously suitable for intelligent moral beings in many ways, and he has these 6 different ways. There's just one universe with necessary ingredients for life. Those ingredients have come together, at least in one place on Earth, to make an environment not just habitable but conducive to flourishing. Some of those world's flourishing inhabitants find the world intelligible. Being intelligible, they also find it beautiful. And all of these facts together suggest the unfolding of a plan behind which there is purposive intelligence. So all these facts are all facts about the universe, which make it conspicuously suitable for intelligent moral beings. So 2, if the universe is conspicuously suitable for intelligent moral beings in many ways, then it should be regarded as a theater for the lives of intelligent moral agents designed by God. So the universe should be regarded as a theater for the lives of intelligent moral agents designed by God. And the other remarkable thing about this argument is he was ahead of his time in that it presupposes compatibility with evolution. Almost no one prior to Tennant was making design arguments that presuppose compatibility with evolution. So there you go. Fine-tuning arguments. So we have fundamental constants and laws of the universe.
Yeah. Now these design arguments I'm way more familiar with.
Yes.
Design arguments from biology I'm way less familiar.
So we have examples of the fundamental constants and laws of the universe: fine structure constant, electromagnetic interaction, alpha, gravitation, the weak nuclear force, proton-electron mass ratio, density and speed of the expansion of the universe. And we have examples of fine-tuning, which I'm sure most of your viewers will be very familiar with. So maybe it'd be better, rather than to go through these examples, they can just pause it later and look at them.
Good idea.
And we have several different ways we could run a fine-tuning argument based on this data. One would be by elimination. The fine-tuning of the universe is either due to chance, physical necessity, or design. It's not due to either chance or necessity, so it's due to design. And that, of course, is Craig's favored way of formulating the argument, which he
there's
got
actually
from...
some... Go ahead, say what you were going to say, and then I'll add something.
Well, he got that way of formulating it from William Dembski's book, The Design Inference.
I was just going to say that this version actually has some benefits that not many people know about. And so there's one in particular I'm thinking about right now, which is in the other versions, like you see from Robin Collins, and even I think Luke Barnes might be susceptible to this, is that there's this question in the problem of evil literature about skeptical theism. So skeptical theism is this idea that we can't really be confident about what God would do in this world in terms of like what he would allow, what kind of horrendous evils he would allow and whatnot. So there's this question of like, how much do we really know about what God would intend or would do? And so this actually, if we think about that response to the problem of evil in terms of a response to these kind of design arguments, which seem to look at what God is intending to do with nature, then it would seem to actually cut both ways. So it would make us skeptical about these arguments from evil, but then it would also seem to make us skeptical about these arguments from design because we're not really sure what God's intentions are. But I wanted to, the reason why I'm even bringing this out and talking about this is because this version, I studied this a couple years back, and I discovered that this version by Craig is kind of clever because it doesn't actually involve that at all. It just says fine-tuning of the universe is either due to chance, physical necessity, or design. Fine-tuning is not due to either chance or physical necessity, so fine-tuning is due to design. So what's sort of interesting about this version of the fine-tuning argument is that it avoids all those types of concerns, which is interesting. And it's very... Craig is very careful when he formulates his arguments because this is completely compatible with his views on the problem of evil and what he thinks we can or can't know about God's desires. So I just wanted to point that out.
So,
it's kind of a side point.
If we compare that to the other formulations, which all have as a central point that given that the universe permits the existence of intelligent, conscious agents, despite how easily it might not have, that significantly raises the probability of theism being true. And so the first one is just a quick Bayes argument, the probability that we have the evidence of fine-tuning given our background knowledge, K, and theism is false, is very low. The probability that we have this evidence if theism is true is very high. So that means that the probability that theism is true is much more likely than its probability that's not being true given the evidence. So the probability of theism being true given the evidence is high. And alternatively,
I was just going to say we're at another 10. So is it time or should we wait?
Go ahead, because there are a handful of design arguments to get to yet.
Okay.
Well, let's finish Collins. Let's finish Collins. He likes to simplify it to just the following: the probability that we have the evidence for fine tuning given the naturalistic. I have a typo here. K should be E. No, I'm sorry. K is right. K is the universe permits the existence of embodied conscious agents. So
I'm telling you, man, this mental exhaustion is setting in. It is
I know, me too.
I'm like,
so that is so the probability that the universe permits the existence of embodied conscious agents, given naturalism and there's only one universe, is very, very low. It's much lower than 1, but it's not unlikely given theism. So the evidence confirms theism over naturalism. All right, so go ahead and do your 10 push-ups.
Have we? So does that exhaust Collins? I don't think
I've got one more from Collins, but go ahead.
Okay, you're eager. You're like eager to see me do these. Okay.
I want to get and this time working out here.
Thank you. And also, this time you don't have to be so quiet, so people don't just like awkwardly listen to my breathing.
Well, I would count, but I can't. I can hardly see your shoulders.
Can't see me. Yeah. Oh, could you see it when I was
briefly?
Move this out of the way.
There you go.
So you can maybe see it like when I come. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe if I move that out of the way. Okay. All right. There you go. Yeah.
1, 2. There we see it. 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 2.
You like for sure made me lose my spot. I have no idea how many I did just then.
Hey, you asked.
Yeah.
All right. Idea. Catch your breath. And this next argument from Collins is really cool. It's the fine-tuning for discoverability. Okay, so the idea is that of all the possible values fundamental physical constants could assume, there's a tiny range that permit the existence of embodied conscious agents. And we can call that the anthropic range, okay?
While you're talking, I've got to go get some more water. So, but everyone can hear you. Don't worry about it.
Got it. Now, within the anthropic range, there's an even tinier range of values that the physical constants could assume that would make the universe optimal for scientific discovery and investigation. And he calls this the discoverability optimality range. And so an example would be the universe has relatively low entropy all throughout. But embodied conscious agents need only a relatively small regional pocket of low entropy in order to exist. So the universe doesn't have to have low entropy all throughout for us to exist. Yet the general low entropy of the universe all throughout makes the universe optimal for observational discoveries in astrophysics and cosmology. So examples like that give Collins a new argument, a new kind of fine-tuning argument. It would go like this. The values of certain physical constants fall within the discoverability optimality range within the anthropic range. If naturalism is true, it is enormously improbable that the values of certain physical constants would fall within the discoverability optimality range within the anthropic range. But if theism is true, it's not at all improbable that the values of certain physical constants would fall within the discoverability optimality range. So the values of certain physical constants would fall within this discoverability optimality range within the anthropic range strongly confirms theism over naturalism. The main idea is just being that, look, God didn't just create a universe that was minimally sufficient for our existence. There seem to be features of the universe that seem that are perks, I guess, that they're not just necessary. There are things on top of what's necessary that make it very convenient to do science and to observe the world and so forth.
Okay, and then I've already got this pulled up actually here. Fine tuning for discoverability. It's in the 24 or so arguments for God that we're just completely one-upping in this stream. So
So the next argument, maybe we don't need to infer design at all. Biologists themselves say organisms appear or look designed. Not that we're inferring that they're designed, but that's just how they appear. So some philosophers have argued that, look, if X appears design-like, then X is justifiably taken to be the product of intentional design. Some things in nature do appear designed, so they're justifiably taken to be the products of design. And so you have Richard Dawkins famously opening his book, The Blind Watchmaker, by defining biology as the study of complicated things that give the appearance of having been designed. And you have Crick saying that biologists must constantly keep in mind that what they see is not designed, but rather evolved. We just, if you take the principle that, look, if how something appears is evidence of how it is, these things in nature appear designed, so that's evidence that they are designed. And you could run an argument from design in biology or from the cosmos in general with this sort of reasoning.